Good morning, and to the it is now 9:11 a.m. and with 6 members present, that constitutes a quorum to conduct today's budget hearing. To introduce the members of the committee, I'll start with my far left. We have Representative Richard Lizama, the chair for PUTC, the Representative Selena Bavalta, chair for JGO. To my far right, Representative Joel Camacho, representing Precinct 4, Representative Denita Yanktamay, Chair for Commerce and Tourism and Cannabis, Representative Vicente Camacho, the Chair for Federal and Foreign Affairs. I am Donald Mangonia, Chair for Ways and Means, and joining us shortly will be the Vice Chair, Representative Karina Magofnia. Assisting the committee, we have our ITs, Jonathan Diaz and Delbert, and we have our Sergeant at Arms, Will Ogden, Legal Counsel Brendan Lade, Senior Legislative Assistant Claire Sablon, and Fiscal Analyst Thomas Robago. With that, can I get a motion for the adoption of today's agenda? All right, motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Again, this morning we have with us today the Department of Labor. As I stated in the beginning of the budget hearings, we wanted to focus on agencies that we weren't able to meet with last fiscal year. We do have the Department of Labor with us, and they are asking for 1.8, or sorry, 1 point, close to 1.2 million. According to the governor's proposed budget, they are being given 846, which computes a shortfall of about 335,000. We are expecting a revised budget by July 1st. This is to include additional funds for operations. As we've seen throughout the budget, all agencies were not given any operational budget. And so what we want to hear from Department of Labor is what are some of the major needs for the department for the upcoming fiscal year, and so that should we get the revised budget with the additional funds for operations, we can see if there are additional funds needed or should be transferred over to other agencies or other divisions. Despite only requesting 1.1 for next fiscal year, they in the current budget and the current Public Law 22-08, Department of Labor at the end of the fiscal year should have received 1.7 million. So that's kind of a big difference between what we have for the current fiscal year as well as what we are expecting for our next fiscal year. And so with that, we do have the Secretary of Labor here along with her team. And so at this time, I'd like to invite you, Secretary, as well as any member of your team that will be presenting or speaking for the division in your department. And it looks like we have a presentation. And so At this time, as you make your way, I will hand over the floor to you.
Half a day and good morning, Chairman Manglonia, members of the Ways and Means Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. I'll quickly run over the composition of labor. I'm sure all of you are already aware, so this won't take more than a couple of minutes. Before I do that, I'd like to quickly introduce the team that's with me here today. On my left, I have our Administrative Hearing Officer, Jackie Nicholas. On my right would be Rio Mostales and Linda Yarambomel with our admin office. And back in the audience, we have our program directors and supervisors and managers of the various DOL divisions. We have Eugene Tabatab with the Employment Services, Jeffrey Camacho with the Enforcement Division, James Ujoa with Employment Services, Pat Camacho with Admin, Francis Torres with WIOA, Agatha Camacho with the PUA program, Vincent Sablon. There you are, Vincent Sablon. Last but not least, she's not yours, she's mine, Carrie Carmen, her staff, handling the PowerPoint. We do have a 2-minute PowerPoint, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. First slide. Just to give you an indication of what we are and how many we are, in spite of any budget that's been given to the CNMI Department of Labor for the past 4 or 5 years, we have been operating with these divisions to try and provide services to our island community job seekers, as well as our island businesses, our island business community. We have also created many partnerships with our education entities, such as the Northern Marianas College, Public School System, NM Tech, and the NAP Nutrition Assistance Program. Next slide, please. As I've introduced them here, the one who's not here would be Timothy Asaivo. He runs our OSHA program. He's with the VAA competition for the Pacific Mini Games, Go CNMI. He should be back in the office on Monday. These are the program supervisors and directors and managers. Next slide, please. Just as a quick update, the functions of the Office of the Secretary. These are some of the major functions that we conduct. I won't read them. We will be handing out these to you for your reference. Next slide, please. Employment services. The main functions are to manage our website for job vacancy announcements, employer declarations, and job referrals. We also do job placement follow-ups, and they also conduct community outreach and job fairs in Saipan, Tinian, and Rhoda. And I may have mentioned it earlier, Eugene Tebeteb, who directs employment services, is also heading the program, federal programs of disaster unemployment assistance and pandemic unemployment assistance. Next slide, please. Division of Enforcement, Compliance, and Monitoring, handled by Director Jeff Camacho, handles tips, referrals, and enforcement issues, enforces regulatory requirements, local labor laws, and investigates and files compliance violations to the Administrative Hearing Office, which Ms. Nicholas handles. And this is Ms. Nicholas's office, handling labor cases, adjudicates compliance agency cases, and also hears denial cases for the POA and DUA appeals. Our WIA agency, it was autonomous many years ago, but it has been under the Department of Labor for the last maybe 6 or 7 years. Thank you. And Ms. Francis Torres handles the Workforce Investment Agency, WIA, and these are some of the main programs that is coordinated under WIA, including apprenticeship. Thank you. OSHA, as I mentioned, Timothy Asaivo is not here, but with a staff of 5, they coordinate and offer assistance to small to mid-sized businesses to be OSHA compliant. We are in need of an industrial hygienist, so that announcement has been going on for several months, and we have had no luck replacing that job position FTE. And lastly, I'm just going to reiterate that if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them today. And if you have questions that we do not have answers to today, you may call us, call me, email us at any time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm ready for your questions now.
Thank you, Secretary, and good morning and welcome to your team. just looking through your budget requests, operational budget seems very minimal. Are these mainly because these other divisions are utilizing the administrative costs from these grants that are assisting these other divisions?
Mr. Chairman, all of our divisions are using a percentage of federal grants. For the most part, we do use local funding. And if there's a shortfall, we utilize a percentage, mostly 10, 20% of federal funding, such as the PUA program, the DOA program, and so forth. With regards to WIA and OSHA, they are 100% federally funded.
Okay, so they wouldn't need any local funds in order to.
That's correct, for WIA and OSHA.
Okay. The administrative. Sorry, there's one position that is showing vacant. The hearing manager. Have you been able to fill that?
What is the position, Mr. Chairman?
Administrative hearing manager under administrative hearing office.
Hi, so we actually just got that position created by the civil service. And so we haven't started the announcement yet since it was just finalized.
Okay. How much in these administrative costs does the whole Department of Labor utilizes for its operations?
Are you talking about operations, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, and for personnel. And so,
Okay.
what percentage or what's the total in administrative costs across all divisions? Does labor have access to utilize for personnel and operations?
Well, in our budget request, which was the 1.18 million you had mentioned, the total for administration services would be about $280,000 for the secretary office only. But across the board with all the divisions, it would be over $1 million. And that would be including the new FTE that Ms. Jackie just mentioned. We're trying to fill in positions that we feel would help us carry out the initiatives with our partners, such as the NAP Food Stamp Initiative, and also other initiatives that we want to continue or expand on, such as our Employment Services Division and Enforcement Division. So it's a little bit over $1 million, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so that administrative hearing officer would be covered through your grant.
Already, yes.
Can you just briefly describe what stage we're on in regards to the pool?
What stage are we on, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Well, we have an extension of the PUA program for the admin side to June 2023. We are at a stage where I'll give you a better picture of it. Each week we were administering over $1 million in benefits starting from the closure of PUA back in 2021. Through today, we have about 400,000 every week still being dispersed to pool applicants who have just turned in documents or completed the submission of certain requirements for their benefits. So we are at the stage of about 1,900 applicants who are still waiting to receive some PUA benefits, but they are being blocked because they may have an issue with their original application, such as an overpayment issue or a missing document, or an investigation has been started because of an inaccurate or something that's wrong with their application. And that's where we're at. So basically, we're still administering benefits to a few more applicants.
And when does when will the final payout be to any applicants who have yet to resolve these issues?
We are mandated by the U.S. Department of Labor to finish this program by June 2023. That's a year from now.
So not just the administrative side, but also the payout by
Correct.
2022. Has labor received the entire CW fees?
I'm looking at Rio. Have we? CW funds are transmitted to the CNMI Department of Labor as we request. And so for fiscal year 2022, we have not finished or received the complete amount of funding
How much has been received thus far?
received and dispersed to our educational partners. One moment, Mr. Chairman. Okay, well, the good news is, per real, we have 100% that's been dispersed to our educational entities of 1.29 million to, for example, the NM Tech, the PSS, NMC, and two more education or training entities, LATI training and Island training. Those are the only three? On Guam Marianas training. So I correct myself, Mr. Chairman, 100% of the CW funding has been dispersed.
So we have NMTI, PSS, NMC, LATI, Guam, Marianas. What's the other one?
Island Training Solutions. I almost forgot the most important one under the Department of Labor, the Apprenticeship State Expansion Program, which is under the CNMI DOL. We also receive funding from CW funds for that program.
Going over to the WIA program, do you know how many WIA applicants are there right now or are employed under WIA?
We do, Mr. Chairman. We have a handout that was just given to me this morning, but under the WIA program, there are three main federal programs: the Adult Youth Dislocated Worker Program, and the program funding is awarded every 3 years. And we were awarded the last grant from FY 2020 to FY 2023. Excuse me. And so, how many employees you're asking?
Yes.
I'm going to estimate about 120. Close enough? That was close.
Under the WIA program, can you just kind of help the committee understand? So we've seen from other agencies that WIA, those employed under the WIA program are going through these academies that are not, how do I say this? They are not guaranteed a permanent position. So is there an agreement with these partnering agencies or departments that we're putting these individuals in a situation where we don't know for sure if they'll be carried over by the agency after the WIA period is over?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. All of our WIA applicants and our WIA partners are aware that WIA is for training. It's not for employment. And so when we help place these job seekers into, for example, DFEMS Academy or DPS Academy or the Nursing Academy, they are given the option of hiring these employees full-time after the training has been completed. That is up to the agency, the department, to find the funding and have them hired full-time permanently. It is not the Department of Labor's it's not in our budget to hire them for ourselves, but we hope that with the training they receive, they will receive a permanent job. So you're absolutely correct, Mr. Chairman, that there is an uncertainty with many of these people who receive the training. And then after 6 months to a year, they're like, you mean you're not going to hire me? And it all depends too on the budget of these departments that take them on for training. Am I right?
Yeah, but I'm just trying to get the clarification because what some of us understands the program to be, and maybe we're wrong in that, is that part of taking on WIA, there's that understanding that after the training period is over, that the department shall carry them over. Is that
That
But
is,
that's not the
that is
case.
our mandate to recommend strongly that the department hires these trainees. And it is in our memorandum of understanding, memorandum of agreement. But again, it really depends on the department's funding. But we're all about training with the WEA program. And so we're hoping, even under the apprenticeship program, that as they get trained, they become too valuable to give up. And departments will look for funding and resources to fund these positions.
Okay. But so it's recommended, not required.
Highly recommended, and we fight we fight with our agencies. We
Okay.
must hire these people, but then again, they give us the reason about shortfalls or positions that were not approved and so forth.
Okay. All right. Well, planning ahead, right? They should have secured this funding prior to taking any applicants in, and it's now on us to try to, you know, like I mentioned with corrections yesterday. It's they're now the pressure is on us because they've already taken them in and trained them, and we can't promise them these FTEs, but. Okay, so clarified, and I just want to welcome the vice chair for joining us, Rep. Karina Magosnia. Where I know that I might have read something about you secretary trying to figure out a unemployment program. Is that where I don't know if that was out in the news, but where is labor in any process of trying to look at how we can develop and sustain a program after this pool is over?
We're looking into an unemployment insurance program for the CNMI. Yes, you're correct, Mr. Chairman. I had mentioned that about 2 years ago when we had first started the pandemic unemployment assistance program in the CNMI. Seeing how we were so dependent on federal funds, I wanted to see if there was a way that the CNMI businesses, the CNMI business community could help us maintain our own unemployment insurance program. And so we have begun discussions with our Office of Interior, and they're going to help us talk with other unemployment insurance programs in the United States and the Virgin Islands to see how we can design our own program here. I put that project on hold until we've completed the PUA program here in the CNMI, but we have been in discussion with some of our business partners, and the number one question I get asked, well, Secretary, what's in it for the businesses? Why should we contribute? And then we come in with a possible scenario of tax incentives, such as the one on Guam with the apprenticeship program. When they hire an apprentice, they get a tax break from the Gov Guam taxes. So we're looking at options like that to entice our businesses to understand that an unemployment insurance program, yes, it'll be an added business cost, but it'll also be a long-term benefit for everyone. That's what we want to frame it in that way. And so when we are ready to present a draft after our discussion with all of the stakeholders, including our government, our business community, our job seekers, we would like to really see a program that would have us totally independent of the U.S. federal government, if possible.
What are some of the widely used models that help fund these programs? Would this be through local government or through payment by these private entities into this program?
Yes,
that-
Mr. Chairman, that's my understanding that the majority of the funding for unemployment insurance programs in the United States is funded by the private business sector.
Okay.
Some states have it funded also partially by the state government. And there is a mix. There's also some federally funded, state funded, and business funded and unemployment insurance programs. We'll call it UI for now. So we're looking at all those options also for the CNMI.
Okay. What percentage of your PUA applicants have already been taken back to work or have found new employment? And how many are still unemployed? So I guess, what's your unemployment rate currently? Is that something you have right now?
I don't want to give you an incorrect figure, Mr. Chairman. Let me get that data for you, if I may, from our PUA team. I was ready to answer you questions about how many PUA employees we have and how much of the benefits we've dispersed and how much may be remaining. But as far as employment, we don't have that data in front of me right now, but we'll try and extract that from the online system if we can. May I get back to you with that?
Sure.
Thank you.
So even with PUA, we don't know, you don't have the figure of how many applicants have already gone back to work?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do you also have a breakdown of going back to the CW fees, do you have a breakdown of how much has gone into each of these entities?
We do, Mr. Chairman. I can provide that to you at a later time as well.
Okay, so for the current fiscal year, as well as, do you have a spending plan for next fiscal year already?
We do have a spending plan that we've drafted with our entities involved, and we've submitted that draft to the U.S. Department of Labor for their review and approval.
Okay.
And we, of course, are anticipating a decline in the CW revenues for 2023. Mr. Chairman, if I may make one correction, I gave you a figure of 1.292 for CW funding.
Yeah.
The actual correct figure for CW funding for FY22 as of June 21 is $330,451. This is the total amount that was dispersed in FY22 for the NM Tech, PSS, NMC, the Apprenticeship Program, and Laddie Training Academy.
So what's this Guam Marianas and?
They're also part of the program, but I don't see their name on this list at this time.
And
Mr.
then the
Chairman?
island training?
Mr. Chairman, Island Training is also not on this list, but they have been recipients in the past and may well be in the future. I've got so many numbers in front of me. One more correction, please. Total funding for CW funds is $3.232 million. Expenditures are $1.647 million. And the fund balance is $330,451. I apologize.
Okay, sorry, the total funding for CW is 3.23 million,
Correct.
and you've already expended 1.6.
1.647, correct.
So shouldn't you have a 1.6 balance?
Fund balance is $330,451.
Where did the 1.3 go? So according to the budget submission for the current fiscal year, in accordance with U.S. Public Law 115-218, there should have been 2.1 million.
What there should have been and what we have been receiving might be two different things, but we constantly ask our team at Revenue and Treasury to update us on the funds that comes in so that we can disperse them accordingly.
So, okay, then back to my previous question. Where's the 1.2 to 1.3 million?
Let me clarify this figure with you, Mr. Chairman, please. I've got Rio here, but I don't want to take your time.
Sure. No. We can wait.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, we'll provide you with the exact CW funding right after this meeting, if that's all right.
Okay. I'll take note of that. So for next fiscal year, your spending plan, does your spending plan indicate how much you plan to give these educational institutions?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman. Each entity has, we've estimated what we plan to disperse depending on their training plan or their educational plan.
Okay.
And so what they have asked for is not what they're going to be receiving, in light of the fact that we are expecting a severe decline in the CW funding for the CNMI.
Okay. Thank you for that. At this time, I will open the floor to the members. Any members? I recognize Rep. Vivalta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Madam Secretary and your team. Thank you for joining us this morning, making time to be with us. I think it's important that we hear from departments as to their financial needs for their departments. So thank you again. You mentioned that there is an anticipated severe funding decrease in the CW funds. What do you attribute that to?
In the beginning of the PUA program and in the beginning of the pandemic, we saw, of course, the businesses shut down, reduce operations, return workers, repatriate them if they were non-US citizens, and just the economy just shut down. And we're looking at a very slow recovery. The good news is United Airlines is going to be flying to Japan in August. We have a new commuter airline starting. So all of those things will take time to really stimulate the economy. Without the businesses operating, we're not going to have a need for that many CW workers, and therefore not too many renewals or new hires would take place for foreign workers. And that's what I'm predicting. We have good news, but it's going to be a slow recovery.
Thank you. Also, going back to the PUA, has any of the funding been returned back to U.S. Department of Labor?
No, madam, we have
Okay.
not returned a penny to the U.S. Department of Labor, and we're really working hard to try and disperse all of that before June 2023.
Okay, and how much do you know total PUA or DUA or PUA? Let's start with PUA. How much total funds have we received to date?
To date, we were granted since 2020 at over $700 million. We've dispersed over $300 million. We've spent some for administrative costs, and we have about $400 million balance for benefits,
Okay.
for PUA benefits.
Because we're still hearing complaints, as I'm sure you are, of people who have not received their PUA 1, some as far back as PUA 1, and you just mentioned that it's probably due to their application errors in that application or whatever documents, supporting documents are still missing in their to support their application. But we've also heard complaints that they constantly on a weekly basis go up to Department of Labor and they are told that their documents are complete. It's just waiting approval. Is there anything you can inform them, other than they don't understand why their poor benefits are still not being dispersed despite being told by your employees that their applications and all supporting documents are in. So can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I can, Madam Representative Babalta. With the PUA program, when we first started, we had over 100 PUA coordinators. We now have less than 60, and we are seeing a high turnover because the fact that they know within a few months to a year, they will not have a job with the PUA program. So turnover is high. With the PUA program, whenever we do hire someone, it takes months of training just to get through the UPLs, which is the Unemployment Insurance Program letters, regarding rules and regs. And so, yes, it does take a long time to process. And to add to that problem, if the claimant has an overpayment issue because his application was filed incorrectly with customary wages or misfiled earnings, that puts another bump in the road to processing. In our benefit payment control unit, Madam Representative Abata, we used to have 15 auditors, and now we're down to 6. And so the time is painstakingly slow for all of us. Every week we have meetings and we discuss the numbers. Each week we see how many have been approved. Each week have been DQ'd. or uninitiated applications. When you say Pool 1, that means the period from June 2020
That's
to
correct.
December 2020. And that, for us, was the priority and still is a priority. We still have, but not that many,
Okay.
I would like to say,
So there are still some that are awaiting Pool 1 then?
due
Correct.
to the fact of, yes, some issues with the application. Correct.
Okay. I noticed in your budget request that you only have 21 employees, or the budget proposal submitted, there's 21 employees plus the newly created vacancy for the admin hearing manager. You also did not request for any FTEs for your WIA, for the WIA agency. Can you elaborate on that?
Representative Altawia and OSHA are both 100% federally funded.
Okay, thank you. So going back to my request, how many employees do you currently have that are fully ARPA funded?
I would say less than 5, fully ARPA funded.
Yes.
Less than 5. We are all ARPA funded in a percentage,
Yes.
yes, but not
the
fully
20%.
ARPA funded.
What are your plans to accommodate the 5 after ARPA funds run out? Do you have any plans to
Our
maintain
plan
them?
is always to try and retain professional employees within the department. That is our plan.
Okay. Um, That's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Abauta.
Thank you, Rep. Peralta. Any other member? The job training program, is that being taken over by another division, or in the past it has received some funding for and FTEs, but in the past 2 fiscal years it's been closed out?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just to clarify, the job training program is under the WIOA program as well.
The
Federally
WIA?
funded. Yes. That's an old name. Francis just whispered to me, job training program used to be, WIA used to be known as the job training program, and now it's the WIA. It's gone through some transformation in the past few years.
Going back to the uh, line of questioning by Rep. Balta, you've mentioned that your adjudicators and auditors have gone down tremendously. Are you still actively seeking temporary employees to fill those positions?
Oh,
to
yes,
assist
Mr.
with other-
Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chairman. We are actively looking for replacements in order to process these applicants as quickly as possible.
But you
Yes.
haven't been able to get employees on board?
We have, but very slowly. I've even gone to all the graduations in the schools in CNY, and I'm like, hey, do you need a job? We can train. Come on down, you know. But many of our students are opting for furthering their education, going into the military, starting a family of their own. Not one said, no, I want to work here. I'm going to go and do something more permanent, more in my line, my passion, what my further studies entail. I hear their reasons, you know, but I'm always pleading for good people. My team is aware. I ask them, do you have a niece, a nephew, an uncle, someone who would like to work, who's not working? We can train, but it does take a great amount of time of training for the PUA program, Mr. Chairman. But we are always looking. So please refer your applicants to us. Ms. Pat Camacho handles our administration building, our hiring and interviews. Ms. Pat, raise your hand, Ms. Pat, so they see who you are. Would you like me to give you your email? Send those resumes our way. We really are looking for people who would like to be trained on a federal program, a very vital program for the CNMI, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to figure out how can we increase support. If it's job security, that's the issue, one of the main issues. A lot of current employees are faced with that fear because ARPA will run out, and so if funding for these adjudicators and PUA employees runs out June 2023, why can't we factor them into the ARPA and carry them along just like the rest of all other agencies that are being funded through ARPA, just so that they have that security knowing they have until September, just like any other government employees that are being funded through ARPA. That's something that the department can consider as well, so that we can allow these employees to be paid through ARPA or set aside funds from ARPA in order to cover and carry on these employees for the remainder of the fiscal year. I mean, that's something that might, give more confidence to applicants or your current employees to stay on board, because again, there's a significant amount of employees that are in that situation where come December 2024, and if their economy doesn't recover, then they'll also be let go. But just knowing that they're safe for the entire fiscal year might, keep them on board. But if you have the number, if you have funds that are ARPA funds that can be set aside for that, or we can get the local budget to help cover at least the remaining portion of the fiscal year. That's something we can try to help assist, because I know, again, all of us to date still receive um, um, messages from our constituents trying to seek help with their BUA applications. Any other member? I recognize Rep. Lizama.
Thank you, Chairman, and welcome, Department of Labor Secretary and your staff. Since you mentioned about the number of people you have working on the PUA, and there's been a lot of complaints, of course, not having their PUA out, and you're seeking for more personnel, do you anticipate more overtimes on your staff to make sure those applications were processed expeditiously?
If I may, Representative Nazama, your question is, do we anticipate more overtime in order to process
Yes,
PU?
ma'am.
Yes, that's always been an option from the very beginning of the program.
And
Yes, sir.
you doing that now, or?
We have not had any overtime that much in the last few months. We're pushing for applications to be processed between the hours of 7:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. That's something that's a topic we could discuss. We also have to always get US DOL approval on any type of extra funding or expenditure that is not approved in the original grant budget. So yes, that's a good point, and that's something we can consider.
Thank you. I hear that.
Thank you. I recognize Rep. Camacho.
Good morning, Madam Secretary and your crew. Welcome. One quick question. I was just looking at something here and I noticed a very large disparity on salary. May I ask, what is the qualification for the administrative hearing officer?
The question you asked, Representative Camacho, is what is the qualification of the administrative hearing officer?
Yes, correct.
To be blunt, this person has to have knowledge of all statutes and regulations related to labor, whether it be the PUA program or federal statute or Sinai law. Just so you know, we're talking about this person on my left.
Does this person have to be an attorney?
Under the position description, yes.
Okay, is the current person that's sitting in this position an attorney?
She is licensed here in the United States and
Okay, good. good.
CNMI bar.
I was just
yes.
wondering because you're not making as much as her for being a
Right?
secretary.
I was
yield.
reminded
Thank
of
you.
that. You're welcome.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. I recognize the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, Madam Secretary, and to your team. I just noticed that under Labor Enforcement Fund, Employment Services, and Administrative Hearing Offices, the number of FTEs remained the same between 2022 and 2023, but I see a significant increases in salaries and wages. So I was wondering if maybe you'd be able to just explain the increase.
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, what we're trying to do is to increase our services to the public, whether they be job seeking services, training, education resources. What we're trying to do is to also have our staff equipped with the tools and compensation to help our people upskill themselves or learn new skills. And that is why the salaries have gone up and the FTEs have not gone up. We're looking at initiatives, as I mentioned earlier, with the Food Stamp Office, NAP, and of course, our very strong partnership with our education entities, the Northern Marianas College, public school system, NM Tech, and so forth.
So are we looking at doubling the salaries because the increase is double what it is now?
That is kind of a surprise for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, under Labor Enforcement Fund, the 2022 current salaries and wages is 105,737, and for 2023 we are looking at 254,488, an increase of 148,000. That's more than double of what the salary is right now. And if you look at employment services and administrative hearing office, they're also more than double what the salaries and wages are right now. So I was just curious if all the FTEs under those respective offices will be doubling their salaries.
Madam Vice Chair, let me provide some clarification for you at a later time when I look that over, because I think all the proposals and the narrative behind those proposals were explained, but we can provide you with more details.
That would be great. Thank you. Also, just one more. I noticed under the Secretary of Labor, communications for 18,000. Can you just share with us what the 18,000 would be spent on under communications?
Communications involves a lot of not just webinars and workshops. We have a barrage of online communication with our federal partners because of the pandemic and the COVID-19 situation, where we had to upgrade our internet service and so forth. That way we could have training provided online, and that's why the cost is so high.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Karina. Any other members? I recognize Rep. Abalta.
Thank you. I noticed that even with the governor's ARPA supplementation of your local funds budget, it still is a significant shortfall. And I know we're waiting for an amended submission by July 1st, but for example, your office in particular will be shortchanged by 61,000 in your operations. This includes the ARPA that the governor has proposed for your office, which is 0 for now. But how do you plan to operate labor if these figures are correct? It's a significant shortfall throughout your divisions. Shortfall of at least 335,000.
That's correct, Representative Abalta. But throughout the fiscal years 2018 through 2022, we've operated on a budget proposed by this administration or any administration based on the funding you provide. It's not our choice to say this is what we want and this is what we're going to get, but it is our choice to say this is what we want to provide to our people. And if it is possible, provide us with the funding so we can provide these services to our people. So whatever budget we do receive, Representative Abalta, we will work with it.
I'd like to ask, after hearing you say that, what then is your biggest priority for the Department of Labor?
Survival. We are not the only nation in the world looking for workers. Everywhere, big corporations are offering, in the United States, for example, they're offering sign-on bonuses, education and training bonuses. Come work for me, we're offering you $15 an hour starting salary. We are competing with the world. And so with the Department of Labor, what we want to do with our people who are here, living here, working here, we want to upgrade their skills and provide our high school graduates with jobs if they're going to stay here. And so we're going to work with what we have, based in cooperation and partnership with our education entities and our training institutes and our U.S. Federal partners, all of that, and of course with our legislature on the Hill. We've got to all work together to get this island back on its feet, these islands back on its feet. So I know you're very aware, Representative Bauta and I have had some discussions about our people working and on how do we get them going back to work. I said, we're not the only ones suffering. Guam's having a tough time. The United States, Malaysia, now employers in the United States are looking to Vietnam to recruit workers, not just Mexico. So it's a global problem. And so
Sure.
our team, we're going to operate with whatever budget is given to us. And I'm not saying you can take some more money out of our budget. I'm just saying we'll operate with what was provided to the CNMI Department of Labor.
Understood. If we were to approve your budget today, which we can't, you know that, what would be your top 3 priority, given all the issues we're facing and trying to get our economy back in, revived, and what would be the Department of Labor's top 3 priorities?
My top 3 priority, if I may, is training and development of our team so that we can provide training and development to our community and our clients. Number 2 would be to sustain educational resources such as NM Tech and work closely in partnership with NMC and PSS. Because the kids that are graduating this year, we took an informal survey. Not one of them said they want to stay and work for the government. This is just a small poll. Okay, these are thousands of students. So when I go to their graduation, say, dude, what are you going to do after you graduate? I'm going off island. I'm going to school. I'm going to go and study to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. Not one of them said, oh, I want to stay because of the economic conditions and because of the enticement of the salaries being offered in the United States.
Okay, that's 2.
What's that?
What's the third one? That's 2.
I think I said survival, right? That's the main
Yeah.
one. But
Okay, got
seriously,
it.
it's really with the budget that we have, we want to continue initiatives with our partners and also to stay in line with our federal partners. We have just finished an audit. I'm sure you've read that the U.S. Department of Labor conducted, and they emailed me yesterday saying they're going to come and conduct another audit for the Arpa funding and the CAA, the Continued Assistance Act. So these are 2 other grants that have been given to the CNMI Department of Labor. And so in line with that, we always have to make sure that all the regulations are followed, whether that means staffing, internet, communications, equipment. We've got to follow all that. So if you could give us the resources, we could stay in line with the federal partners' mandates.
So you're okay with the FTE level that you're currently at?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Follow up? Yeah, I recognize Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I was just curious, what's the current unemployment rate right now?
Madam Vice Chair, the current employment rate is not handled by the CNMI Department of Labor. I'm sorry, I don't have that figure. I've asked for it from the Department of Commerce. May I try and get that?
Sure, that would
Okay.
be great,
Okay.
because that would help us. What's the current percent right now of PUA recipients? Do we have those numbers right now or no?
No, ma'am, not right now.
Do you know if we still have a lot of recipients for PUA?
If you're saying, do I have a lot of recipients waiting for PUA benefits? We have
Or
about
still
1,000.
receiving? Like
Oh, it's still receiving over 1,000.
over 1,000?
Yes, and we anticipate that procedure to continue through the next few months.
And I'm just curious if the number of PUA recipients are attributing to the unemployment rate, and if so, how can we, get them back into the workforce so that we can reduce our unemployment rate and kind of start get the businesses to get back those employees. Obviously, you said that a lot of the businesses are looking for employees, and so I'm not sure if one of the reasons why is because a lot of the recipients choose to remain on PUA, but I was just curious to see what the ratio is between the unemployment rate and the PUA rate.
Okay, Madam Vice Chair, I'll try and get that data for you, but you made a good comment, that we're competing with other destinations for workers. As for the businesses here, yes, every business wants to get, qualified skilled workers, and so they are having a problem. But every week when I see the number of PUA payments going out and the number of PUA recipients receiving them, it's going down. And so to me, it's not like they're not working. They're trying to upgrade their skills or go back to school and learn a new trade or profession. And so I don't think it's a major issue.
So there's no
for the
direct
CNY.
correlation between,
Oh, I'm sure there is, Madam Vice Chair, but it's not a huge impact, I think, compared to the United States and other destinations, Guam, for example.
got
Yeah,
it.
but I'll try and get that data more detailed for you.
Okay, great, thank you. You.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I recognize Rep. Camacho.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question. This may have to do something with the WIA. Well, more than that, JVAs. The question is, how realistic are these job requirements? I've been going through some of these job openings, and I tell you what, for $8.72 an hour, you must have at least a bachelor's degree. But it does not require that. It just requires a high school degree. See what I'm saying? HVAC is a big thing. Chemicals is big. You don't just learn that from high school. So the question is, how realistic are these job requirements in these job openings? Because it does not make sense. I couldn't qualify for any of these jobs because I don't have those knowledge or skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Camacho, for that question. With regards to job vacancy announcements, requirements are set by the employer. We do have some guidelines, and we always try and set up a meeting between an applicant with the same kind of requirements that are being asked by the employer looking for an employee. We try to match what we call occupation. In the federal guidelines, there's a job title and it has the requirements. It must be the same as what they're going to advertise here in the CNMI, and that's handled with our Employment Services and Statistics Division. So it is a tough situation because you're right, $8.72 for a college graduate is not enticing for someone with a BA in any degree here. And I'm sure many of you
Yeah,
agree
but
with
what I'm
that.
saying is that the job requirement needs more than a high school graduate. And we're looking at high school graduates here who would not know how to work with electricity, plumbing, masonry. You would have to be a skilled laborer to do that. Right out of high school, there's no way you'll be able to get those skills. So that's why I'm asking if this job description is actually realistic. I know that companies are putting all this out and that's what they're requiring you. But holy moly, there is a long list of things that you're responsible for, hydraulics for that matter. No high school graduate is going to be able to qualify for such a job. So it's something we need to look into really. Guidelines and all. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. But just to piggyback on Rep. Camacho's concerns, does labor have any, can they interject in regards to some of these requirements being outrageous for an entry-level job just because these businesses are kind of making it difficult for the locals to apply and trying to keep their CW employees? Is that something that labor can go in and go through these requirements with these hiring companies and kind of assess if these requirements are truly what's needed for these positions?
I'm sure you've heard that as well, Chairman, and we've heard that kind of comment, that this business, they're just announcing a position to hire or rehire or renew a CW non-US worker. Is that true? The team with Director Eugene Tebetep and James Ujoa and their staff of 8 always review these job vacancy announcements. Before they're approved or certified by my team, they have to justify why they're hiring a non-US worker. And they have to interview anyone who applies for that position here in the CNMI, especially if they're a U.S. worker. So that's what our mandates are. Mr. Chairman, we also want to let you know that we're trying to work closely with CNMI, MTech, and PSS so that the students are learning the trades that are wanted by the businesses. And then again, how many high school graduates have you talked to that said when they graduate, they want to become a plumber or a mason? Very rare. So it's really up to our community where we're heading, right, in the direction of our economy. If we do need more masons and construction workers, do we teach that in the high school? And if so, how far do we go? Apprenticeship programs after high school, during high school, the co-op system, trade school education. I mean, there's so much to talk about, and I don't have that time, and I'm sure you don't want to waste your time listening to me to talk about those issues. But these are very good points. You know, for the Department of Labor, there's a lot of things going on in our department, but we want to focus on, as I said, training and development of our people, upskilling not just the kids who are graduating from high school, but the adults who are already out there in the workforce and maybe have just want to change in their work or get a better salary or some retirement income from a private sector or things like that. But it is not a simple solution. I can't offer you that.
Have you done any analysis on any return on investments on the funds that you give these educational institutions? How much, um, with the money you are giving to the educational institutes, are they really, is it being applied in the manner that they've requested it from you for? Or, are we getting people into these hard to fill, occupations? Or is this just something that you want to support these educational institutions with?
Well, the CWN funding program was not given to the CNMI Department of Labor until just a couple of years ago, right?
Right.
So before that, it was handled by our CNMI Scholarship Office. So I can't talk to what their initiatives were in detail. But for the CW funding assessment, how the plans have been going, everything that's being done with the funding has to be reviewed and approved by the U.S. Department of Labor. And so we look at those items very carefully in detail. The mandate of CW funding is to train local workers and replace foreign workers. That's the mandate. And how we do that, PSS has one way of doing it, NMTI will have another one, NMTech, NMC has other options. So we try to look at what everyone's trying to do and does it go to the same goal? Training our local people. Yes. And that's where our assessment will come from. But all of these details truly have to be reviewed and approved by the U.S. Department of Labor. And so it's not easy. You know, they come back with us, say, what is this number? Can you adjust? Can you revise? Can you improve? Can you increase? And so we too have to answer their questions. How is this funding being spent? Is it carrying out the mandates of the public law that established CWN funding?
Okay. Thank you. Well, I guess we'll just wait on your allocations and breakdowns. This will kind of give the committee something to see in regards to how much additional funds these educational institutions are receiving, um, because they also do have their request that comes through us, and so we want to factor in what labor gives in CW fees so that we can see where we go from there. But yeah, if we wanted to see if investing in these educational institutions are is actually helping out our workforce. Are we seeing the numbers of our people attaining this goal of being skilled in the field, in these fields that we're going to end up having to fill when the CW um, leaves the CNMI? Other than that, Secretary, one of our main concerns, and we understand that labor receives a lot of federal funds and a lot of administrative costs, and so your request is very minimal. But so we kind of just wanted to see, um, you know, why that is. But again, you get a lot of your funding from administrative costs through the grants. Um, And so with that, just a couple of things that we'll be expecting from you, and that's the CW allocations for the current fiscal year, your spending plan for the CW fees next fiscal year, and your CW fees balance. I understand there's some calculations that will need to be made. The employment rate, or at least the percentage of pool applicants that are still unemployed as a result of COVID. Um, and again, just to clarify, the one vacant position will still need to be included in the budget, but does not need funding because it's going to be funded through your federal grants.
We can always appreciate funding, but correct, we're going to
Okay.
fund that through federal funding.
All right. Okay. If there's nothing else from the members, Secretary, thank you again for coming in, to you and your team. When we, the committee hopes to receive these information by June 30th. Again, we're expecting to receive the revised budget by July 1st, and so these information will definitely help the committee in deliberations.
I understand, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so
Right.
much, and members of the committee.
Thank you to your
so
team.
much.
Thank you everyone for being here. At this time, the Department of Labor is now excused. So we won't go on recess because we have to go get back from recess from the Wednesday meeting. It's okay because the mic wasn't on. Yes, we. The the next portion of the agenda is public comments, but we don't have anyone else in the audience, and so we now moved on to announcements. As I stated again, on Wednesday we had our budget hearing with OPM, but the director was out of the office, and we were supposed to recess until today, right after this meeting, to see if the director will be available. Unfortunately, she hasn't gone back yet. So we will adjourn this meeting and then rise back from recess from the Wednesday meeting and then adjourn from there again. All right, is that okay? Okay, so we now move on to the next item, which is adjournment. Can I get a motion? All right, motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. This meeting is hereby adjourned at 10:22 a.m.